Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening today. Today is the 23rd of April, year of our Lord 2020-25. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Moton Noah. Got a big show for you guys today. Thought I'd give you a quick little content update because we're taping this, and I'll probably release this one early as well. Taping it early, releasing it early. I think it's because I'm going to just not have time on Thursday. Thursday night, Game 3, Pistons versus Knicks at LCA. The NFL draft, the first round, is going to be happening concurrently. I'm just going to be up all night if I have to do both of them, and then you know what I mean? It's just going to be a whole thing. So getting this one in the can early, and then after Game 2, we released, if you didn't see this, you didn't hear about this, we released an individual reaction video on the Moton Noah YouTube channel to Pistons versus Knicks, Game 2. No promises if that's going to happen again in Game 3. If I have something to say, I'll tape something, I'll put something in the can, and I'll put it up on the YouTube channel as a standalone piece. But again, if I have nothing to say, I'm not going to do it just for the sake of doing it, win or loss, by the way, even if they go up 2-1. I don't know, maybe I'll have something to say, so just keep an eye on that. But I wanted to make sure I got the full hour of today's episode in the can early. So I don't know if you like to use this on your Friday mornings to get to work or to do the dishes or while you're doing schoolwork or whatever. Hey, by all means, kick the can down the road on this episode and just listen to it, whenever it works for you. But we are doing it a little bit early. The previous episode, it was really short. Why was it such a short episode? The back half of it, I cut 30 minutes out of the episode, and I just ended it when I thought I should end it because it just went nowhere. It just wasn't a good episode, and so I knew that most people would have only cared about what I thought about Game 1 anyways, and then some other miscellaneous games that had happened in the playoffs in that first weekend, and so I just put that up, and maybe we'll make up for it today. I have no idea, but there is some stuff that's kind of going on in the world that maybe we should comment on. Here at the Coping Hour, we cover all the biggest stories, and we like to cover them from all angles as best as we can. Has there been a bigger story in the world this week than the Pope dying? Pope Francis, dead at like 1 million years old. People, so many emails this week, suspicious of the fact that he maybe died earlier than what we were led to believe. I can't believe that that's the take that some of you are coming away with, that Pope Francis was actually dead before they announced it. I'm like, dog, 12 hours before he was pronounced dead, and that hits like all these media. We saw him be alive. We saw him as an alive man. He was driving around in the damn Pope-mobile less than 24 hours before he was actually dead. How are they going to weekend at Bernie's the Pope? How are they going to do that? Vatican City, millions of people. I don't know if it's millions, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people watching the Pope tool around in this damn Pope-mobile, and he's actually been dead the entire time. I don't think that's the take. I'm actually going to go with the take that everybody else is going with right now, because it's the easy layup, and it's the funniest thing. I think J.D. Vance killed the Pope. Seemingly one of the last people outside of the Catholic Church to see Pope Francis alive. He was the last political figure to interact with the Pope, and then, wouldn't you know it, 12 hours later, the guy croaks. What happened? I love seeing these stories come out. Pope Francis's cause of death revealed. He was 100 years old. He was born like 1930. He's 100 years old. I think that's what killed him. I think that's in the end. I think that's what it was that got him. Was that he was just super old. Dog, he just spent like 2 weeks on a ventilator because he had pneumonia, and then his pneumonia got pneumonia, and then that pneumonia got pneumonia. He was pneumonia squared times one more after that. He was pneumonia squared plus 1 after that. And he fought his way out of that. And then J.D. Vance shows up. J.D. Vance probably walks into the Vatican. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry that we forced this meeting on you guys. We just had a super long flight. The outlets on the plane were dead. Can you charge my phone, Pope Francis? And he's like, I guess that's good hospitality if I charge your phone. Pope Francis takes J.D. Vance's phone. He plugs it in. And then eventually J.D. Vance, after 20 minutes, fucks off. Pope Francis returns to his Pope quarters. J.D. Vance left his phone here. That's too bad. He takes it off of the charger. A call incoming from Donald Trump. Whoa, the President of the United States is calling me. Pope Francis puts the phone up to his ear. A freshly charged Samsung Galaxy Note 7 If you remember what happened when you charged those phones and you took phone calls, you know where I'm going with this. I think J.D. Vance blew the Pope's head off. He charged the damn Galaxy Note 7 and it blew up the Pope. I think that's what happened. J.D. Vance not only killed the Pope, he fucking exploded him. He blew him up. And you talk about a horrible month for J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, a guy who seemingly doesn't have a home. If it's one thing to say that America's left does not like J.D. Vance. I'm not sure the American right likes J.D. Vance very much. If it wasn't because a year ago, leading up to the election, we're talking about how much this guy likes to have sex with couches. Now, in the last month, we're talking about what? He gets sent on a diplomatic mission to Greenland and then gets laughed out of the country. And then within recent weeks, a week or two ago, he didn't break the college football national championship trophy, but he definitely fumbled it in a way that he could have broken it. And it was horrible optics for J.D. Vance that he almost killed the national championship trophy when Ohio State was visiting. And now he killed the Pope. Donald Trump's vice president just killed the Pope. Vance is having a horrible month. That guy cannot get it right. What else is going on? There was an anonymous poll that The Athletic put up, co-written by Sam Amick, semi-friend of the program. Never spoken to him in my life. Former colleague. Very, very good guy. Very, very talented writer. So The Athletic / the New York Times puts out this anonymous player poll. And I can't really, we're going to dive into it a little bit. I'm going to blind react to some of these. I've seen some of the results, but I got the article pulled up here. But the first thing I want to say is this, it's one thing, I guess I just don't know how I feel about the whole anonymity piece of the whole thing. It's the only way that you'll get these players to speak, in a super candid fashion and to get, how they're actually feeling about certain players or certain teams or certain rules or whatever it is that they're asking them. I think it's okay for the players to stay anonymous. I just hate when the GMs do it, when there's like an anonymous GM survey that comes out and we don't actually get, you know what I mean? It's it's sort of a double-edged sword because you love the sort of juicy gossip that comes out of this and the sort of like mean girl behavior that gets put on display. But it's like when you're a GM, I don't know, like I just feel like you should stand on it and you should be like, I am Sam Presti and I think this is the most overrated player in the NBA. You're not really hurting anybody. I guess you're hurting future relationships, but at that point, if Sam Presti says that somebody's overrated, it's not like he's going to go after. He's not going to target them in a trade or, in free agency over the summer or anything like that. So it's like you can burn those bridges. You know what I mean? It just is. I don't know. I guess I still haven't, as I'm saying all of this out loud, I still haven't figured out where I stand on all of it, on the anonymity piece of these surveys. But without further ado, let's jump into it because the first question is the easy one, but it's fun. NBA players anonymously agreeing that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should be the MVP this season, receiving 56.1% of the votes. Second place, obviously, Nikola Jokic at 37.4%. And then essentially a three-way tie with Giannis, Donovan Mitchell, and LeBron James. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, MVP of the NBA. It seems like that's how it's going to shake out. It's interesting that the people that we're hearing from right now who actually have votes, and at this point they've casted their ballots, you're hearing more people admit that they voted for Jokic, but it still kind of feels like it's going to go in Shai's direction. I would also argue a lot of the arguments that have been used to put Jokic ahead of Shai in this whole debate have been kind of hollow and have been easy to poke holes in. And a lot of the Jokic greater than sign Shai for MVP takes have been rooted in hypotheticals. Well, if this thing, then this thing, if you put Jokic on the Thunder and if you put Shai on the Nuggets, what do their records look like and who can elevate the team more? And so that's been but I'm like, but that's not how it's played out. And I'm like, Shai is on one of the best teams in basketball, if not the best team in basketball. Jokic is not, but I don't know. You get what I'm saying? A lot of the Jokic for MVP takes have been contingent on if and or what if variables. And that's been, okay, the players think it's going to be SGA. It looks like it might shape up that way, but we'll have to see. The players also anonymously agreed, I should have said unanimously agreed. It's both. They unanimously agreed in anonymous fashion that the Boston Celtics are going to win the championship overwhelmingly. 57.7% of the votes. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 17.5% in second place. Then you got the Cavs, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and then essentially a three-way tie for whatever place after, the Warriors, the Bucks, and the Timberwolves. God bless the 1.5% of the 137 players that voted in this that said the Milwaukee Bucks. I would actually get around on Minnesota being more acceptable than Milwaukee right now, given the state of the team and the fact that the first two games haven't gone particularly well. And Kuzma, 4 minutes into the game, had missed like 3 point-blank layups at the start of game 2. So things are going about as expected in Milwaukee right now, which is honestly too bad. But okay, people think that Boston is going to do it again. That's interesting. It's not just people, by the way. It's like these are dudes who are actually playing in the league, so maybe there's something to read into there. Up next, this is where we started to get into the blind reactions. I don't know what these are going to be. 5 years from now, who will be the face of the league? Victor Wembanyama, number 1, about 54.5%. You have Anthony Edwards coming in at number 2 at 13.8%. Then it's Shea, then Tatum, Luka, Paulo, Cade. Cade got 2.2% of the votes. And then Ja. So Paulo, Cade, and Ja all tied at 2.2%. It is probably Victor. I mean, you spend so much time talking about face of the league as if it's something that you can sort of bestow upon an NBA player and not something that, like, as if it's not a mantle that a guy just kind of grabs for themselves and then decides, you know what I mean? I think in Victor Wembanyama's case, it's actually both, where we will all just sort of as a consensus be like, this is the guy for the next, however many years, if he's able to stay. Who knows what's going on with a blood clot? So the only updates we've really gotten so far have been positive, but there just haven't been that many updates. But also I think, again, it's not just us saying it's going to be him. He will also prove that on the court. Anthony Edwards coming in at second place is interesting to me because is there a guy in the NBA whose penis costs him more money? Whether it's the women that he sleeps with and the children that he fathers illegitimately, is that how you would use it? Because they're not married. It's out of wedlock, Anthony Edwards. That's a sin. Can't do that. We just had Easter, and you're still having unprotected sex with all of these women. If it's not because of that, then it's because he's saying courtside to a Laker fan sitting behind the scorer's table, Rudy Gobert makes $200 million. Rudy Gobert makes $200 million. And then Rudy Gobert's like, actually, it's 3. And then Dante DiVincenzo laughs. Everybody laughs. It was funny by Rudy Gobert. Actually, it's $300 million. Anthony Edwards goes, actually, it's $300 million. He's got $300 million, and my dick is bigger than yours. He didn't have to say that. I think he kind of got off track at the end of that. When he was talking shit with his fan, and by the end of it, now we're comparing penises. I just think Anthony Edwards may have lost the plot a little bit by the end of that. And then the NBA fined him $50,000. We didn't get to see what the guy looked like who he was talking to, but if I'm that guy, I've got some. I'd like to get into. I don't want to say get into like a competition with Anthony Edwards in this sense. I know he's a pretty competitive guy. Do you think he would accept the challenge? MC'd by Pat McAfee. It's a meet-off between Anthony Edwards and this random guy who maybe lives in, where does this guy live in Los Angeles? Does he live in Silver Lake? Does he live in K-Town? Where does he live in Los Angeles? I don't know, but we'll find out when the Anthony Edwards ex-fan meet-off, MC'd by Pat McAfee, happens this summer, maybe in the off-season, when there's not a lot going on ESPN Plus. You can stream it on Disney. $50,000. Anthony Edwards just getting in so much trouble off the court, and it just has nothing to do with his basketball ability and literally has everything to do with his penis. He just cannot keep himself out of trouble in that regard. You put Shea Gilgeous-Alexander at third in terms of who the next face of the league is, and it is not unreasonable at all to suggest that. So here's my thing with Oklahoma City. I'm not about to say something bad either. Is if they do it this year, even if they go to the finals, they don't have to win the championship. They do have to win the West, though, in order for what I'm about to say to like really kind of like maybe be true. I'm putting a pin in the fact that Oklahoma City has the opportunity to be the most shocking dynasty that we've seen since MJ's Bulls. And I think it has to do with the head of the snake, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, how talented he is and how young he is, but not just how young he is, how young the entire roster is, and their ability moving forward to keep them together. The odds are that they're going to be able to do that when you think about, like a Shai and a Chet Holmgren and a Jalen Williams and, guys like Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe and, the Aaron Wiggins, the guys that are kind of on the margins. It'll be interesting to see who they attach themselves to and who they say, all right, it's, we're going to have to, cut our ties here, cut our losses rather, and, trade this guy for 18 seconds, or we just let him walk in free agency. I would be shocked if Sam Presti lets any of these guys walk in free agency at any point. So it's not just that. It's not just the talent of the roster and the youth combined. It's also because we've never in NBA history, I don't want to, say this and be wrong. I don't know the history to this degree to make a claim like this, but I don't believe that there has ever been a team in NBA history who is as successful as Oklahoma City is with the war chest that they do have, right? Because we've, it's been covered not just on this program, but elsewhere ad nauseum at this point, the amount of capital that Oklahoma City has hoarded at this point, that they realistically can trade for any player in the NBA. Name a player, Oklahoma City has the assets to make a trade for that guy. Again, not just in their capital, but with the actual guys on the roster and how young and how talented they all are. So it'll be really interesting by 2030 to see how this has gone. And I don't think it's the case with Oklahoma City where you can be like, oh, well, the league is just so goddamn talented. I don't know how, if it's not this year, 2 years from now, Oklahoma City isn't the most talented roster in the league. Because by then, well, there's the take, honestly, is maybe expansion fucks them up a little bit. And maybe that's where you start to see the cracks start to show in Oklahoma City. Because you can only protect during an expansion draft, 9 players? 8 or 9 players? So I don't want to go down the list and just, name a bunch of guys, because there's going to be someone that I forget, and it's going to be a whole thing. But is that going to be, because they're a deep team. There's also not a team in the NBA that's as deep as Oklahoma City is, where they could put out 2 entirely different platoons of players that still win them. If I'm Oklahoma City and I put out my second unit, how many games are they winning? In the West, it would be a little bit tricky, but 40 games. If your bench is winning 40 games, that's fucked up, right? In a good way, but in an endearing way. It's fucked up, parenthetically endearing. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, again, being the head of that snake, I don't think it's crazy to say not just that he'd be the face of the league, but that they will be the team that you cannot mess with in the NBA. I'm delivering some cold takes here, but I do think at the end of the day that it's just going to end up being Victor Wembanyama because we've all seen him play and we all see what he does, and there's no reason to think that that's going to change anytime soon, especially if he's about to win the MVP. Most overrated player in the NBA. I'm sure all of you saw this one. This one did make the rounds. Tyrese Halliburton, number 1, 14.5%. Followed by Rudy Gobert, Trae Young, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, Draymond, Ja, Julius Randle, Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Dylan Brooks, Paul George. A lot of names on here. Shout out to the 2.5% of the people the anonymous players in the NBA who voted in this that said LeBron. Huh? What? That's where I'm saying it's a snapshot like that where I'm like, you can't get away with being anonymous. I need to know who you are. Because what if it was Kyrie, KD, and Jokic? You know what I mean? What if it was who are the 3 funniest players in the NBA that could have been involved in that 2.5% of people, of the 90 players who voted in this specific question, who voted LeBron James as the most overrated player in the NBA? Funniest players. I mean, if it was 10 years ago, it would be funny if it was Dwayne Wade and Delonte West. I don't even know if Delonte West was 10 years ago. There's no way he was still in the NBA. There's no way. Right. Kyrie would be funny. It would be funny if AD switched up and was yes, it's so I'll put AD on there. So just the Dallas Mavericks. It's just the Dallas Mavericks that were oh, it's actually LeBron. Why is Kyle Kuzma on this list, by the way? Got the same amount of votes as LeBron did. Why is Kuzma on here? Tyrese Halliburton, though. Number 1? Why? I don't get it. I haven't seen anybody, even in succinct fashion or long-winded fashion, explain to me why it's Tyrese Halliburton. I just think he's a nice guy. I don't know. He stinks sometimes, but I think he's very properly rated. That's just an all-star guard. Nobody's like Tyrese Halliburton, world eater, like face of the league. Nobody voted him face of the league, and well, I guess nobody would have voted him that if they also believed that he was the most overrated. But I thought it was silly on there for him to be at number one. Joel Embiid getting about 3.5% of the votes was funny to me. Did you guys also forget that it was literally this NBA season that Joel Embiid tried to kill a columnist? Who was it? Was it Marcus Hayes? Wrote a piece where he included some comments about Joel Embiid's family and like, well, if Embiid is going to miss all these games, then how is his family supposed to sleep at night knowing that their dad is a pussy? And like Joel Embiid's, I believe, recently deceased brother was also mentioned, and then Joel Embiid in the locker room was like, that was not cool, and I don't give a fuck about what you guys say in the media, but, like, that was not cool. And Marcus Hayes was like, well, you clearly do care about what we say if you're getting in my ass right now. And then Joel Embiid gave him a little, huh. Give him a little, huh. But it's like, that's a lot of guy to be giving you a little bit of a, huh. You know what I mean? So, did Joel Embiid try to kill a columnist? No, but it was certainly painted that way, and there was a sort of divisiveness in terms of fair play by Joel Embiid or fair play by Marcus Hayes to just call him on his bullshit. It was not fair. It was never fair. You lack journalistic integrity if you're going to attack this man's family. Your job, at the very least, is to commentate or critique, if that's the word you want to use. The way that Joel Embiid plays on the floor is not your job to comment on his family. Leaving innocent people out of this whole thing is like the most important piece of it. So it was fair play by Joel Embiid. I'm only bringing this up just to say it was funny that happened this year, and you just would feel like that happened 5 years ago. You know what I mean? That was also like 2 weeks before Kyle Lowry called a team meeting. The locker room in Philadelphia was just in shambles, and I don't think anything really interesting came out of that. But yeah, Joel Embiid tried to kill a journalist. That was funny. It literally happened this year. Who is the league's most underrated player? Cade Cunningham. Number one. Cade Cunningham. Most underrated player in the NBA, as voted by anonymous players in the league. Don't shoot the messenger. That's just what they're saying. And if everybody wants to say, well, Shea should be the MVP because all the players think so, and who should we trust more? The guys who are actually playing against him or the guys who are fucking podcasting and writing about it? Okay, that's an interesting argument. I think there's some merit to it. That's not the only metric that we should use, but I don't think it's nothing that if that's what the players are saying. That I do think that is gospel to an extent. Well, what happens when they say that Cade Cunningham is the most underrated player in the NBA? You also have to take that for gospel. No? Derek White, number 2. Norman Powell. Love that. Love that. Norman Powell at number 3. Austin Reeves, Drew Holiday, Jaren Jackson, Lou Dort. What's the one that really sticks out here? Oh, Aaron Wiggins and Jalen Williams both on. Wow, goddamn, a lot of thunder on here. Lou Dort, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams. That's crazy. They got 4 of them on there. Denny Avdia got 1.5%, most underrated player in the league. He had one good year. Denny Avdia, for real, had one good season where people were like, wow, this is an actual NBA player. He's the most underrated player in the NBA. Oh, okay, maybe. Jaylen Brown, 1.5%. Shut up. I don't think a guy who gets paid, what is it, like $280 million? Is he getting $300 million? However much his contract is. Dog, in 3 years, he's going to be getting paid like $60 million. He's not underrated. He's not. Oh, the guy who just won Eastern Conference Finals MVP and then also the MVP of the NBA Finals is the most underrated player in the NBA. If your logic is like, well, anytime that people talk about the Celtics, their first inclination is to mention Jason Tatum and not Jaylen Brown. Yeah, there's maybe some commentary in there, but I don't think that makes him the most underrated player in the NBA. Too many cameras out of Portland also got 1.5%. Dyson Daniels, 1.5%. Good for Dyson Daniels. Good for him. For all intents and purposes, I think he should be Defensive Player of the Year. I also think that he should be the most improved player this year. I really do. I thought I was about to. I just kind of stopped talking. I thought I was going to have more on Dyson Daniels. No, I just think that he's really good this year, and I think that he would be first team all defense, and I think he should get DPOY, and I think he should get most improved. That's it. Dyson Daniels has been awesome this year. What is the league's best organization? The Warriors got number 1, followed by Oklahoma City, Boston, the Clippers, Miami, the Lakers, the Spurs. Any crazy ones on here? The Phoenix Suns got 1.5%. What's that all about? Who voted that? You know who it is? I just figured it out. So 137 people voted. Let me ask Siri this really quick. What is 1.5% of 137? Let's just wait for Siri, the most crucial piece of artificial intelligence. She's figuring it out. Siri's figuring it out. She's doing her little math right now. It's not really working, because if it was 100, I would just be like, so that's 1.5 people. But 137, she could not figure out what the math on that is. 1.5% of 137. So what is that? Like 3 people? So Bradley Beal. So Bradley Beal definitely voted that the Phoenix Suns are the best organization because they traded for him in the first place, and all they have to do is pay him $45 million a season, and he's literally not going to go anywhere unless he waives his no-trade clause, which right now he has no reason to do, and it also looks like he is never going to do literally ever. So it was definitely Beal. Who else would have been on there? I can't think of any. That's the funniest one that comes to mind. Ayton wouldn't have done that. I mean, they traded him, and they drafted him number 1 overall. Maybe it was like a thanks for drafting me number 1 overall, because in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have not been drafted number 1 overall, even if I can look back on it, and, hindsight's 2020, but, like, yeah, he was the consensus guy at the time. Bradley Beal, shout out to him for anonymously voting that the Phoenix Suns are the best organization in the NBA. Worst organization, it's the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Pelicans. Those are the top 3. The Hornets at number 1 overwhelmingly. Yeah. It's not close either. We like to make fun of the Wizards on this show, but I believe that they're trying, even if I don't always, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't work, but I don't know. They're trying. The Hornets are not trying. I think even if they get Cooper Flagg, by the grace of God, if they win the lottery and they get Cooper, I don't think it's going to matter. And I think I think something weird's going to happen. He's going to play the first 5 years of his contract, and he's going to be like, you know what? Actually, instead of taking a $280 million extension, or by that point, it's going to be at like $360 million over 5 years, whatever the super max he's going to get is. I think he's going to forego that and be like, I don't fucking want to be here anymore. You guys stink and you don't care about anything, and you guys employ a bunch of losers. That's like our whole identity. The Kings being on there, that's too bad. Number 4. Mavericks getting 4.5%. The Knicks getting 2.7. Maybe it's just because of Dolan. I don't know. It wouldn't be because of Tibbs. Well, I can't say that. It is entirely reasonable that it could be because of Tibbs. It wouldn't be because of Leon Rose. There's no way. Like, player relationship aficionado Leon Rose, no way. It could be because of Tibbs, just because he's a hard ass, and if you're playing for him, if you're in like the top 7 of the rotation, you're going to play at least 30 minutes. But outside of that, you're like, nah. At least the practices probably suck, right? It would just have to be because of Dolan that the Knicks would get put on this list. I can't really imagine. It's not like the Madison Square Garden is like, yeah, it's an old arena, but they renovated, and I don't know. There's no way it's because of that. What do we got next, folks? Aside from your own current coach, who is the best coach in the league? Mark Daigneault, number 1. Whoa. Huh. Talk about a player relationship aficionado. I don't know. You don't really hear that many anecdotes from him. Not really the guy that you hear get mic'd up and like say a bunch of funny shit, or like hear like a really cool interaction between him and his players. I guess just a pretty low key guy, like super under the radar. Trust tree. I don't know if I've ever heard a press conference for Mark Daigneault. I just know that he's not always been the Thunder's coach, but since he's been the Thunder coach, things have just been going well, and that's kind of it. There's not like a lot of personality with it. I'm not saying there's not personality. I'm just saying if you view this thing in terms of clips that you see on the internet, Mark Daigneault, not really a guy that gets a lot of clips. You would think of a guy like Joe Mazzulla. Like very recently, was it game 1 that they played where Jason Tatum goes down with an injury? Joe Mazzulla stops the trainer and was like, don't go out there. And he's yelling at Tatum to get up. That's funny as shit. And it's all real with Missoula. Like, it's not a facade. That is really just who he is. And at this point, because he's won a championship, like, it's just validated his insane behavior, right? But you get that from him. JJ Redick is another one. You see the clips all the time. Taylor Jenkins, rest in peace, was that way too. Outside of that, yeah, you got some from Pop, but obviously. You got some from Steve Kerr, obviously. But I don't know. Spoelstra may be in there too. Mark Dagnall. And it's not, the thing that I'm saying has literally nothing to do with who's the best coach in the league. It was just, it's an interesting reflection of like the way that we view coaches as fans, the lens that you view it through, versus like actually knowing what the fuck is going on and having relationships with these people and the anecdotes that maybe other players are hearing from members of the Thunder. Mark Dagnall, really good guy, I guess. Aside from your own coach, who is the worst coach in the league? Brian Keefe. Yeah. Mike Budenholzer, though, getting in second place. What the? Come on. Why? Because he asked like Bradley Beal to be the Drew Holiday of the team, and Bradley Beal was like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to collect $45 million and proceed to what's Monopoly? What's the joke here? Proceed to go. Mike Budenholzer. That's too bad. What a nice guy too. What a bad shake of things he's had for the last few years, just as like a guy. Fired after one year. Doc Rivers at number 3. Yeah. Charles Lee. Why are you saying fuck him? You can't put him on this list. That's not fair. You can't put him on this list. Talk about another guy who's just he's gotten the shit kicked out of him for the last like 4 years. Charles Lee. Nick Nurse, Tibbs, Doug Christie's on there. Again, that's not fair. You cannot put Doug Christie on there. His seat like is barely warm yet. I mean that literally in terms of him getting fired, and like he hasn't been there long enough for him to be the worst coach in the NBA. I don't know. I would say the roster. I don't know. It's not Doug Christie. Doug Christie's a nice man. Leave him alone. Here we go, folks. This is really what we're looking for. Which player in the NBA would you least like to fight? For those of you who have been watching the NBA for more than like 1 year, you already know who this is. It is very overwhelmingly, not even close. It is James Johnson. James Johnson, who at this point in his career in recent years has just transitioned to sort of like a Udonis Haslem, like Dante Jones type role where he's just end of the bench mob guy. He doesn't really play that much, but if there's some shit that like rings out and there's a fight, James Johnson knows Kung Fu. Don't mess with James Johnson. That's the dude you don't want to fight. But number 2 is Isaiah Stewart. So we're on the board, Pistons fans. Isaiah Stewart, player in the NBA that players would second least like to fight, followed by Steven Adams, Lou Dort, Jalen Duren. Got 2 Pistons on here. Brooke Lopez and Zion Williamson. What's Zion going to do? He lost all the weight. What's he going to do? I don't know if he, at some point, he's going to get like muscle dystrophy because he's taking all that goddamn Ozempic, and I don't believe that he's hitting the weights. There's no way. He's going to get muscle dystrophy. You can fight him. You can probably get away with fighting Zion. Fighting Zion Williamson at this point in his career may be like fighting somebody who's in the middle of a dream where when their punches just don't hit. It's like you're punching a pillow. You know what I mean? You ever get in a dream where you try to hit something and you just can't hit it hard? I feel like that's what is going to end up happening to Zion Williamson because he keeps taking all this goddamn Ozempic. Can I throw one player out there that I'm surprised did not make this list? Desmond Bane? Food for thought. Desmond Bane. Do you not want to fight him? Personality-wise, I don't know. But physically, the guy has you know what I mean? His shoulders, his biceps, his tries, what are these right here? If you can't see, your traps. Desmond Bane is just jacked. And so that's a guy, I don't know, maybe he's like a huge weeb and he like can't fight at all, but at least aesthetically, he definitely looks like he can fight. Up next, in this 3-point revolution age, are analytics good or bad for the game and why? This one was close. Bad got 38.3%. Somewhere in the middle got 33.1%. And good got 28.6%. So a majority of the players, at least who voted in this, in the NBA, believe that analytics are sort of trending in a bad direction for the NBA. as a result of the three-point revolution. I mean, I don't know. The problem with advanced analytics at this point, and this transcends the NBA, right? Like, this is just, I think this is kind of all sports. Baseball's been affected by this, I think, in a major way, where every team has their own analytics, right? I think Moneyball, what the Oakland A's did like 20 years ago, was kind of the start of this whole analytics revolution. And is it good or bad? That's not. I'm not here to discern. I think they're annoying. Like to me, to put it in perspective, I don't care about them. To the extent that I think true shooting percentage is bullshit, and like I don't even want to hear about true shooting percentage. That just doesn't matter to me. I understand why, as an aggregate statistic, it is valued by people, but it's just not something that moves the needle for me. I'm always just going to be the guy. Maybe this makes me sound dumb, but like I'm always going to be the guy that's like, did the ball go in? Did the ball go in or did it not? And then on defense, did you stop them from the ball going in or did you not? Now, it's easy to miscontextualize a lot of players or a lot of teams or a lot of situations when you strip them of their context of the individual numbers that can get produced from these sort of possessions or outcomes. But I don't care about them. And I'm very much like a, did you win the game and did you make the shots? And if you didn't, then let's have a conversation about that. What do we got after this? Do you like Adam Silver's idea of changing to 10-minute quarters? No. The answer is no. That is the answer by these players who voted in this. No. Yeah. Can I tell you guys something? I don't know if this is interesting. So here's what I do when I do my career in 2K. There are games every now and then where I will put 5-minute quarters. Usually I play 10 because 12 is too much, but 10, I'm like, at least that way you get like as realistic stats as you can while just cutting a little bit of a corner, right? When you shave off 8 minutes from the game, you're playing a 40-minute game instead of, so usually I do 10 minutes in my career on 2K. Every now and then, though, I'll do 5-minute quarters. The headcanon when I do that is that the NBA decided to create express games. And what express games means is that literally it's 20-minute games, 5-minute quarters. It's not just what's happening on the court, though. It's literally like the tickets to the games are cheaper too, right? So sitting courtside to one of these express NBA games, it doesn't cost you, some arbitrary number, $1,500 or $3,800, depending on where it is. It doesn't cost that. It costs, a third of that. You completely slash the prices because it's a completely different product. That's not something that the NBA will ever entertain. But when you think about 10-minute quarters, like if the NBA one day pivots to, if we're doing back-to-backs, it's because both teams that are playing in the back-to-back will be on a back-to-back. And in those games, maybe we play shorter games. You know what I mean? That's when we do 10-minute quarters. But it gets weird when you talk about, like historical, like record keeping and stats and shit like that. You open up Pandora's box to an extent, and so it just can't happen. You would have to do what Adam Silver is suggesting, and you just across the board 10-minute quarters. I think it would only prove to be beneficial to the players, but as a consumer, you're not going to drop the price of League Pass. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to drop the price of tickets. Concessions are still going to be the same. A jersey is still going to cost the same. The only thing that changes is that maybe players will be fractionally more healthy and available as the season goes along if you're changing it to 10-minute quarters. But League Pass is still going to cost the same. These FanDuel Sports Network regional packages are still going to cost the same amount of money. The consumer is not affected by, positively, I should say, by these games, unless your argument is the consumer is affected positively because the players are playing more frequently and they're not resting on these games because there's, once you get to the dog days of the season post All-Star break, availability, you would imagine there would be an uptick. And so that's where the consumer sees a return on investment, is that you buy a ticket to a game at the end of the season where there's a slight chance that this player will be playing a little bit more frequently. But other than that, I don't really see it. Up next, are the NBA's gambling partnerships good or bad for the league, and why? We're not going to get into that. We're not going to dissect the and why, but majority of the players say that it's bad. You can't really expect anything other than that. I mean, these are the guys who every night they go out there and, it's you fucked up my parlay. You're supposed to get 7 rebounds and you only got 6. I need you to put 5 more shots up because I have the over on 20.5 points for you tonight, or the team, or, whatever the spread is. And, these guys just get it, whether it's at the arena or maybe in their social media DMs or something like that. And, it's been covered, I think, to a healthy degree at this point that, yes, I think players in every major sport are having an issue with this. I mean, even during March Madness, they were playing commercials where they were like, literally, hey, these are kids. If you're gambling, chill the fuck out. These are kids. They were throwing out statistics. I'm going to throw out some arbitrary number. It wasn't this, but like 75% of NCAA athletes are victims of bullshittery online because they fucked up somebody's parlay. That's not cool. If that's you, look at yourself in the mirror and just like chill out a little bit. They were playing those commercials during March Madness. So it's interesting, I guess, that you don't see those during the NBA or any sport. I mean, you see how many of these teams that have, this is the case in like the Premier League too, where like teams will be sponsored by gambling partners, but they're not the ones. All they do is say, gamble responsibly, and if you have a problem, call this number. But they don't say like, hey, chill out on the players, as much as maybe you would think they would, considering how much of a problem players around the world in any given sport are suggesting that this is an issue, and this poll certainly reflects that. Up next, would you be in favor of shortening the regular season if it meant your salary would be smaller? Again, the answer is unequivocally no. No, run me my shit. Never broke again. That's what the NBA stands for. NFL is, it's not really the no fun league anymore. They sort of cracked back on their crackdown on players not being allowed. You still can't dunk on the goalpost when you score a touchdown, which is stupid. But nobody's going to be like, we'll play less games and be more healthy if it means that I get paid $20 million less. No, I mean, with the way that these contracts are going, this is another one that you're just kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. That's it, actually. Yeah, that's literally it for the player survey. Really fun. I don't know. It's always a very fun mental exercise, to get to see where the players are at, even if for the most part you kind of already knew where they were going to be with it. Let's do an email, folks. copinghoursubs@gmail.com, spelled phonetically. Email available in the description, wherever it is that you listen to this program. We got this one from Aiden. Aiden, welcome to the show, brother. Subject line, Jokic GOAT conversation. Hey, Nick. I'm currently firing off this email while enjoying some Wingstop and NBA playoffs. Earlier today, my friends and I were debating what it would take for Jokic to enter the GOAT conversation. Currently, he is overcoming MVP voter fatigue by putting up wilt numbers in 2025. However, I don't think that anyone is putting him on GOAT watch. And then in parentheses, you said, this is my Paul Revere call. I think if he maintains a similar level of performance over the next 5 to 7 years, then he cements himself as better than LeBron. My buddy thinks Jokic needs at least 4 rings to enter the discussion. I disagree because GOAT is an individual title while rings are a reflection of the team. What are your thoughts on this? I got a lot of thoughts on this, brother. Well, the first thing is, you say at the end, I disagree because GOAT is an individual title while rings are a reflection of the team. It's not in the NBA. I just don't think it is. Rings being a reflection of the team. It's not. It's not in the sense that if you're looking at it through the lens of the 4 major sports in America, football, basketball, baseball, and hockey, the NBA is the most individual sport, and it is the one league where you focus on rings more than any of the other ones. Because, like, in the NFL, you focus on rings, but you really only do it for quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Like, Montana wins his, and then Brady surpasses those, and he wins 7 Super Bowls, and he sets a bar that will, for the rest of time until that is surpassed, be the measuring stick. I mean, it's happening now with Patrick Mahomes, right? And it is going to continue to happen until he surpasses Tom Brady. The numbers outside of that, for some people, will not matter. It's about Rangz, right? You go down a tier below that, it's baseball. Tier below that is baseball. Because one guy, it doesn't matter. You could be the greatest hitter of all time. It doesn't matter. You could be the greatest pitcher of all time. You get 4,000 strikeouts in your career, and you like never see the playoffs. It can happen. Dog, you're pitching once a week. You know what I mean? You're pitching every 5 days. Like, it is a lot of the time, it's completely out of your hand as a pitcher. Even as a hitter, you could have 3,000 hits and 500 home runs and like never do anything in the playoffs because it's just not on you. It's not only on you. Like Mike Trout, for years, people were like, is this the greatest baseball player of all time? There's like never been anybody in the history of baseball. I'm being hyperbolic when I say this, but you talk about a guy in the history of baseball who has been as successful offensively and defensively as Mike Trout has been, with like nothing to show for it in terms of playoff performances, because the Angels just never get there. They stink. That's why Shohei ended up being like, I can't do this anymore and I have to go somewhere else, right? Because it's one thing to be one of the greatest hitters who has ever lived. It's a completely other thing to also be able to throw 100 miles an hour into the 7th inning the way that Shohei can, while on the opposite end of the plate, hitting for like, he goes like 3 for 5 with 6 RBIs. Like, that's just what Shohei has shown us that he can do, but it wasn't translating to anything. And then he goes to the Dodgers, and guess what? In year 1, he wins a championship. And that's like a really nice cherry on top. I'm not saying he's like the GOAT. I mean, truthfully, at this point, I do believe there's never been anybody as good as Shohei Ohtani in baseball, literally ever. I don't care about anything. He's been only like 7 years. I don't care. He's the best that I think has ever played. And the championship doesn't technically validate that. It's just kind of, again, like a cherry on top, like a nice Shohei Ohtani won a championship. That's really cool. A tier below that, the bottom of the tier in terms of like teams that it doesn't matter. I'm sorry, like the GOAT conversation, it doesn't matter if you don't win a champ. Hockey, it does not matter. It doesn't matter. It's nice, but like Nick Lidstrom for the Red Wings won 4. He won 4 Stanley Cups. And that's not even like the first thing that you're going to mention when you talk about why he was so perfect, not just as a player in general, but perfect for the Red Wings. You're not talking about his Stanley Cups. Like, it's just not the thing that we focus on. Alexander Ovechkin winning for the Capitals in, when did they win the Stanley Cup? Maybe 2018? Like, again, it was cool because he finally did it. And it was nice to see him skate around hoisting the cup. But even if eventually he would have broken the record anyways, he just fucking did it, he still would have been viewed as like, that is probably the best goal scorer of all time, if not for a majority of people's lives. I think people would say that even if he didn't end up breaking Wayne's record. You know what I mean? I just don't think it matters. So like in the NBA, I really do think it is a reflection because one player can do it. It is not common to see a team win a championship because of literally one guy. Like, that does not happen. You know what I mean? But I don't know, like, it's just different. And then you talk about Jokic entering the GOAT conversation, and Aiden, I don't really want this to sound like I'm saying this at you, but your email, I think, very clearly is getting the gears spinning in my head, so I may use it as a reference. But if I say anything rude, I'm not saying it about you specifically. I think the NBA is the league that is also as plagued by this GOAT shit as anybody else, because, you know, people my age and a little bit younger are plagued by the reality that the internet has always been around. And, you know, you have every piece of information available at your fingertips constantly, and this barrage of content and this barrage of information often makes you susceptible to being desensitized to like the craziest shit that you've ever seen in your life. Because I could just look something else up that would be the craziest thing that I've ever seen in my life. And so what I'm saying by this is like, it almost feels like this need to shoehorn Jokic into the GOAT conversation is more about us being bored of the conversation of like LeBron versus Jordan. But like, dog, that's just what it is. And the longevity piece of it really matters here. Like, yeah, if Jokic rattles off 4 championships by the end of the decade, in 10 years from now, that's not a thing. 10 years from now, Jokic is not going to be a thing. But like, it's sure, that's a different conversation. By 2030, Jokic has 5 rings. Yes, we will talk about it then. But like, I don't know. I don't know that he's going to get there. He will always be in that conversation of like greatest big man of all time and like greatest passers of all time, greatest playmakers of all time. I think people will always have that conversation with him. But like greatest player of all time, I just don't really think that's ever going to be a thing. And to me, again, that just comes back around. It boomerangs back to the whole like being desensitized to like how much greatness there is, and us feeling the need to like reshuffle the cards of a conversation that we already know what the real conclusion of it is. Even if we don't know as a consensus, we can't agree on Michael versus LeBron. But right now, that's what it's going to be. And it's probably going to be a while until we're ever able to very earnestly revisit that conversation. I think Jokic is somewhere... I think he'll kind of end up existing in like the you had to be there tier of the GOAT conversation, or greatest player, not greatest of all time, but in terms like greatest top 15 players of all time. He has the highlights. He absolutely has the numbers. But like until you've actually sat and just watched him play a 40-minute game, it's just different, man. It's just something different. I think, the true king of you had to be there, for my generation, I think that the guy who holds the belt, I think it's Kawhi. Because you talk about a guy who doesn't really have the numbers on a consistent year-by-year basis to be like, holy shit, this guy. You go back to, first, this season would be a good example of like, yes, he has the numbers. His playoff run in 2019, where he's shooting like 70% from mid-range for like 3 months, you could look at that. Highlights, though, yeah, he's got the shot against Philly, one of the most insane game-winning plays that has ever happened in sports. He has that. But outside of that, Kawhi doesn't have this like all-time highlight package that kids 15 years from now are going to look back and be like, holy shit, this guy. I really think you have to live through the experience, the timeline of Kawhi Leonard to appreciate when he has seasons like he's having this year. And when he's having, as of this taping, we're only 2 games into the Denver series. But like that second game, we're in the third quarter and Kawhi is like 13 of 14 from the field. You're rubbing your eyes like a goddamn Looney Tunes character. There's nothing. He can get to his spots like whenever he wants. And you talk about 2019. I don't think there was ever a year, again, in my life that a player had such a dramatic playoff run that we had no choice but to consider reshuffling the deck in terms of who the best player in the world is. Like, we had to completely reset and be like, wait, is it Kawhi? It just so happens that the 2019 Raptors run that we're talking about, Kawhi being the best player in the world for like 4 months, coincided with LeBron not making the playoffs for the first time in like 12 years and not making the NBA Finals. 8 years in a row, LeBron was in the finals. He goes to Los Angeles. They suck the first year. They completely missed the playoffs. LeBron's streak is broken. Somebody's got to take the mantle, right? But the way that Kawhi did it was completely different, because it's one thing to like take advantage of LeBron just not being there at the peak of his powers. It's a completely different thing. Again, you have to reshuffle the deck and be like just zoom out on the whole thing and be like, is it Kawhi? Is this the best player in the world? And unless you lived through that, I just don't think you'll be able to articulate what it felt like. Again, we don't know how this playoff run is going to go with the Clippers, but for him to play as much as he did this season and the way that he did, and for it to carry into the playoffs the way that everybody expected it would as long as he was healthy, like, I don't know, man. We may have to have another conversation. I don't know if he'll get to a level where it's like best player in the world, but you watch him in these games and it's so, like, as a guy who, how do I say this, man? I'm so close to making this point. Is there a guy in the NBA who it's easier to be a prisoner of the moment for than Kawhi Leonard? Because, like, Jokic, you get it. You get it. He's won the MVPs. He won the championship. You get it. Giannis, he's done the MVP thing. He's done the championship thing. You get it. Yeah, LeBron, and yeah, Steph, and yeah, KD, and yada, 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 right? Shea, maybe, but I would put it's Kawhi above him in terms of just being hypnotized by their shot-making ability and honestly their defense, but mainly, you know what we care about in the show, their shot-making ability. I just think it's Kawhi. The absolute, like, tough buckets that you'll involuntarily let out when you watch Kawhi play per capita, per possession. I just don't think it's higher for anybody else in the NBA than it is for Kawhi when you watch him, and I don't think the tape will I mean, it of course will, But I think that that's just because you have the context of knowing what his career has been like. I don't know, man. It's been a crazy, crazy, crazy few years for Kawhi Leonard. And by few years, I literally mean like 12 years, since he got into the NBA, and the ebbs and flows and the ups and downs. And so if you did a pyramid of like, you had to be there, guys, in the NBA, I mean, I can only do my life. You put Jokic on there somewhere. I think Kawhi is the top of the pyramid, right? It's an impromptu pyramid. Kawhi's at the top. Jokic is somewhere on there. I'd like to put Monte on there. Monte Ellis. How do you guys feel about that? I think it's somewhere between people are acutely aware of the bridge between him and Steph and like the sort of transition. I mean, they shared the floor together, but you get what I'm saying here. It's somewhere between people being acutely aware of that and also completely forgetting the history of it. And like, dog, that was Monte Ellis's team, and that guy was a hooper. Monte Ellis was a capital P problem. He's definitely on there. Oh, there's got to be some good ones. People, this doesn't count. He's not on the pyramid, but I remember when Dwight was in Houston, people framing it like he was the worst big in the league, but like he never was. That was never the case. And then you also go back and you look at the numbers and you're like, I guess it wasn't Orlando, but it also wasn't Los Angeles. You know what I mean? There was sort of a healthy middle to it. And that, man, players that I really wish I had thought about this earlier, because players that you had to be there for in the NBA. Monte's a good one. I think that, I don't know if Korver counts, but I think there's a conversation to be had about, this was another thing that was happening 10 years ago. Right before Steph won his MVP, people talked about the fact that Steph was not the best three-point shooter in the NBA, and it was actually Kyle Korver, like, just because of his percentages. And that was a real thing that people talked about. Those were real conversations that were had at my lunch tables in high school and like through the media that I consumed. Like, people were like, Kyle Korver is the best three-point shooter in the NBA. Was it 2015 that the Hawks won like 60 games and they had 4 or 5 Jeff Teague makes an All-Star game. Kyle Korver. So it was Teague, Korver. It would have been Millsap, Horford, and DeMarre Carroll. Did they have 5? One of those guys had to be left off, but DeMarre Carroll was definitely an all. No, DeMarre Carroll wasn't an all-star. Surely he was that year. Somebody got left off. Korver got it. Teague got it. Millsap got it. Maybe it was Al Horford that got left off. But why the fuck would DeMarre Carroll have... I'm not rewriting history. I remember that DeMarre Carroll had like 3 years where people were convinced that he was like an actual guy. The way that people talk about Nas Reed, although this may just be like a mini racism because I'm just thinking of their hair and how that's kind of the same. I don't know. DeMarre Carroll was kind of an enforcer in that same way. He could I think DeMarre Carroll could put the ball on the floor and hit like a little tween a little bit better than Nas Reed could, but played the same damn position. Yeah, that's probably as close as I could get off the top of my head. And so just imagine like Nas Reed being an all-star. That didn't happen. There's no way DeMarre... Am I getting CC Sabathian right now? DeMarre Carroll, all-star or not? I could look this up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to plant my flag and say he... if I'm planting my flag, I have to think about it. DeMarre Carroll, the Hawks win 60 games. No, that's absurd. He did not. That's crazy. Okay, wait. It's like, I used Nas Reed as an example. DeMarre Carroll had the same run and the same lifespan that Kenneth Faried had for Denver. There it is. I think that's what I'm going for. Because I remember the Rising Stars game, watching Kenneth Faried and being like, what is this all about? Who is this? And you watch him for Denver go out and grab like 16 rebounds a night. I don't think his averages would reflect that. But I remember Kenneth Faried just being a monster on the boards. And he was a problem, but not for that long. It was like Kenneth Faried. Okay, the gears are spinning. DeMarre Carroll is to Kenneth Faried as Kenneth Faried is to Jonathan Simmons. Okay, are we going too deep here? Are you still with me, or are we going too deep on the layers here? Because Jonathan Simmons had what was it? If DeMarre Carroll had 4 years, if we're being generous and saying 4 years, Kenneth Faried had 3. Jonathan Simmons maybe had 2. I remember there was 1 year for the Spurs when it was kind of over. We were like, okay, it's over with the Ginobili, Tony Parker, or Tim Duncan, all that shit. It was okay, so that's done, and now they have Kawhi and Jonathan Simmons, this Jonathan Simmons character, who the fuck is kind of came out of nowhere, had one really good year, ends up in Orlando, and then at the deadline, maybe 2018, maybe? I think it was, yeah, that makes sense. I think it was 2018, Jonathan Simmons, maybe 19, gets traded from Orlando to Philadelphia for Markelle Fultz. This is a Markelle Fultz who allegedly maybe had a motorcycle crash or some bullshit, got some fluid injected into his arms. He could not raise his arms over his head. His shot was busted. J. Cole is given, I pray for Markelle because they fucked up his shot. Just know that you got it, my dude, and you're special, and I love you, and you're Markelle Fultz, and that's sweet as hell, but you're about to get traded for Jonathan Simmons. It was very wordy bars from J. Cole on a feature that he had with 21 Savage on A Lot. That was the name of the song, A Lot. Jonathan Simmons gets traded for Markelle Fultz. He sucked. He was not good. Jonathan Simmons was not good. So if DeMarre Carroll had 4 years, Kenneth Faried had 3, Jonathan Simmons had 2. Come on, Nick. Finish it off. Finish it off. 1. Who's the guy who had literally 1 year and that was it? Come on. You got to do a good one. You got to do a good one. Mo Williams on the Wolves comes to mind. I think I'm only saying that because he had the 50-point game and he was all swagged out. I think his legs were covered. He had a t-shirt, a compression shirt on with shooting sleeves and a headband. He was wearing number 52. He had an off-balance 3 from 40 feet that was disgusting. I don't think that counts. I think I'm just thinking of the one game that he had 50. I don't remember if Mo Williams was good for the entire year. He was also 100 at that point. If we're sticking with the Wolves, Nikola Pekovic, does he count? That guy was a literal, first of all, a tree trunk. His whole body was just, not just his legs, his entire body was just that of a tree trunk. Also recently got arrested for being a member of an Eastern European crime syndicate. Did you guys see? Actually, for real, that happened. People had long since conspired that he was a member of some mafia, Serbian mafia. Turns out that was true. He just got arrested the other day. I don't think it's Pekovic. Some of you are going to be like, Jeremy Lin. Come on, that's a layup. I gotta get in my bag here. Come on, man. If DeMarre Carroll had 4... And then let me buy myself some time. DeMarre Carroll had 4, Kenneth Faried had 3, Jonathan Simmons had 2. Come on, just one, man. I don't think I have it. That's so goddamn. Oh, I just lost it. I had it. I thought of a guy. I was gonna say Kendrick Nunn. I don't think he counts for Miami. I don't think he counts. Was that too recent? Is that not fun? Nick, a guy who had 1 year in his entire career. I might just have to say Mo Williams on the Timberwolves and just hope that was good. Let's just look this up really quick. Mo Williams, Timberwolves, and we'll look at Basketball Reference and just hope. I remember he finished his career with Cleveland. Yeah, he did. So 2014, 2015, Mo Williams plays 41 games for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He averaged 12. It doesn't count. He was also an all-star in his career in Cleveland. That's right. He was with LeBron and Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Eric Snow and Shannon Brown and Delonte West. I forgot that he had that. That was where he was at Cleveland the first time. He was an all-star in 2009. So I can't say that. He finished as 6th man of the year. Damn, man. I want to say David Lee, but he had a couple years where he was good. Oh, man. If I couldn't stick the landing. The Challenger has exploded here at the Coping Hour. You know, a couple weeks ago, we invented television. Conceptually, we invented television. It was like the coping hour goes from black and white to color television moment. In a segment that I cut, I invented the Iraq War, in the just the Middle East conflict that we had for 20 years. I did cut that segment, so you guys didn't see it. You won't know what I'm talking about. I think we just invented. I think we just invented the Challenger exploding here at the Coping Hour because I couldn't figure it out. What do I want to finish with? God damn, I've been going for an hour. Have I said anything? What do I want to finish with? I think I'm good, actually. I think I'm good. That's a good stopping point. A good stopping point for today's episode is when I fail and I fall on I face plant. I'm like, I was ahead and I should have. All right, okay, we'll get out of here. Spotify, I don't have any questions for you guys. Sorry. Apple Podcast, Spotify, I love you though. You guys have been doing really good with the numbers on there. I don't know if the show is just kind of getting juiced in some algorithms, or I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because it's playoff time but it's been going on. It's like post All-Star break. The Spotify numbers have been slow. There's been an uptick. It's been interesting to follow. Alrighty, folks. If you are Apple Podcasts, what's up? What's up? If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. Keep an eye out for Game 3 recap. Don't know if I'm going to do it or not, so don't hold me to it. If they lose, I'm probably not going to do it. But even if they win, I might not. If I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to do it. Alrighty, folks. I will catch you guys in the next one.